So here's a pretty fascinating story. This is about Joe Biden and the Secret Service. So you guys know the Secret Service has become pretty politicized. Secret Service is supposed to be completely non-political and just basically aiding the president to make sure he doesn't get assassinated. I believe the Secret Service was created around the time where JFK and RFK died, but not 100% sure on that. That might have just been extending the Secret Service to presidential candidates as well, but I'm not sure. It says Biden doesn't trust some Secret Service, doesn't believe, quote, details of dog biting incident report. So it says President Biden doesn't trust some of the Secret Service agents around him and doesn't believe certain details of the biting incident with his dog Major, according to a new book about the administration. So if you guys don't know, I think Major is like a dog that's been at least branded as like a difficult dog. I think it's like a rescue dog or something like that from the pound. I don't really know too much about dogs. I think dogs just are not good. But nonetheless, it's been like a struggle dog, and so there was a story about, I guess, the dog like biting a Secret Service agent, and that was a big deal. It says Chris Whipple's The Fight of His Life Inside Joe Biden's White House says Biden has trust issues with some agents, due in part to the fact that some agents are strong supporters of former President Trump. Quote, a bigger problem was Biden's discomfort with the Secret Service detail. Some of them were MAGA sympathizers. He didn't trust them, Whipple wrote, according to a copy of the book obtained by The Hill. Biden's detail as president is much larger than it was when he was vice president, and now many agents are, quote, MAGA sympathizers, and the Secret Service is full of white ex-cops from the South who tend to be deeply conservative, Whipple wrote. The Secret Service response to the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol after Trump tried to politicize the agency and made Tony Ornato, Deputy White House Chief of Staff of Operations, added to the president's concerns. Surrounded by a new phalanx of strangers, wow, it's a new word for me, Biden couldn't help but wonder, do these people really want me here, Whipple wrote. When the news broke that the Secret Service erased most messages from January 6th, along with revelations uncovered by the White House panel that investigated the insurrection, Biden felt that the, quote, Secret Service had looked both incompetent and politicized. And so it talks about that biting incident with Major. It says it's a German Shepherd rescue dog when it allegedly bit a Secret Service agent. And so it says the president was reportedly skeptical about the Secret Service's report of the situation. Biden, quote, wasn't buying the details, such as the location of the incident, although he didn't dispute that the bite took place. Biden told a friend that Secret Service agents are never at the location of the incident, which was allegedly on the second floor of the White House. Somebody was lying, Biden thought, about the way the incident had gone down, Whipple wrote. And so this is actually really fascinating here. So this is actually a pretty crazy story because Joe Biden is showing distrust to the Secret Service. I don't know if this is the first time the Secret Service in its history has been considered politicized. I don't know the full history of the Secret Service as an agency itself, but the Secret Service is supposed to be completely apolitical, fully dedicated to the protection of the President of the United States. And if Biden, the United States President, is skeptical of the Secret Service because they're MAGA-sters and Trumpsters, that's pretty crazy. And so if you guys aren't aware, basically during the January 6th committee hearing, which was, I think, like a really big success and how much information it was able to uncover for us, like this, for example, it says the Secret Service had basically deleted a ton of text messages. I think the CIA had like burnt a bunch of documents related to torture because it was starting to look like, oh, it was like illegal, and so they just burnt a bunch of documents and they couldn't find them. And so it looks like they did the same thing because I guess the idea is that they were trying to get away. Like this article talks about how, like, you know, Trump is trying to like grab the driver, the Secret Service driver, to go back to the Capitol as opposed to going to the White House so that he can like go and rally with them. But also I guess they're trying to convince Pence to get in the car so that he believed that they were going to take him away because the vice president has the ceremonial constitutional role. The Constitution ceremonially gives him the ceremonial role of just reading out the electors that are sent in. And so I think the plan was, let's get him out, I guess use safety concerns as the reason, and then take him away so that that they just halts the process, right? I believe that that's what this is trying to say. It says, afterward, when Pence fled, he refused the request of agents to get into a car because he didn't trust them not to drive away and evacuate him from the Capitol. Pence, who thought it was important for the country to proceed with finishing the task Congress started that day, didn't want to prevent the election certification if he couldn't return to the Capitol that night. I'm not getting in that car, Tim. I trust you, Tim, but you're not driving the car. If I get in that vehicle, you guys are taking off. I'm not getting in the car. At the same time, Ornato told Keith Kellogg, Pence's national security advisor, there were plans to move the vice president to Andrews Air Force Base. Kellogg replied, according to the Post, "You can't do that, Tony. Leave him where he's at. He's got a job to do. I know you guys too well. You'll fly him to Alaska if you have a chance. Don't do it." And so all these text messages are just deleted, and so we have no idea of knowing what actually went down fully that day, essentially. And so it's just bonkers to think about this. But in terms of political science, this kind of goes to, took a U.S. presidency class that really studies like the office of the presidency. This is like the struggles of the the president managing the bureaucracy, right? Unelected officials. The Secret Service are not elected officials. They're hired or politically appointed, right? And then also there's like the threat of, obviously going native. It's called going native, which is like you side with your agency as opposed to the administration, so like the Biden presidency. But this isn't like Secret Service agents batting for the Secret Service versus Joe Biden. It's like Secret Service agents batting for Trump, right? Because there's a lot of like MAGA sters and like crazy people like that, like really, really hardcore Trumpers, and everything has just become so polarized and politicized that even something like the Secret Service is now somehow made political, right? Which is just crazy to think about, right? And the fact that Joe Biden, the president of the United States, is like sketch about his own like security detail that's supposed to protect him is absolutely like insanity. And again, goes to show like controlling the bureaucracy is one of the biggest challenges of the president. And there's like the theory of like bureaucratic sabotage and that kind of thing, and that's considered like empirically not to be very like common and not a very big issue. However, with how big the polarization is, maybe bureaucratic sabotage is going to be even more and more prevalent potentially, because because they're more politicized, they're more likely to stray away from what the president's ideas and goals are and go towards whatever their personal opinion is, right? So super fascinating stuff. Let me know your thoughts down below.